Okay, take a look at the left side of your screen. That right there, that's the heartbeat of the modern American consumer. It's a chaotic, literally never-ending feed of Uber Eats orders, Apple Pay taps, and constant instant gratification. Now, look over to the right. This is the financial pulse of a typical East Asian household. It's a clean, disciplined tracker prioritizing savings, cost performance, and long-term stability. And this visual split isn't just about people using different apps. It represents two entirely different ways the human brain has been culturally wired to view money, time, and ultimately survival.
The financial divide, economic cultures in America and Asia. In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into a massive macroeconomic shift in global wealth, and it's one that's driven almost entirely by cultural DNA.
Section 1. The culture of immediacy. To really understand the global economy, you have to understand the American engine of consumption. It's fast, it's loud, and it is entirely driven by what behavioral economists call short-term orientation. Let's look at the raw data.
4.7%. That is the personal saving rate in the United States.
34.4%. That is the household saving rate in South Korea.
89%. That is the percentage of U.S. shoppers who make impulse purchases, which is just staggering when compared to the much lower rates we see across the Asia-Pacific region.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this cultural DNA split. American culture is deeply rooted in individualism, which promotes this short-term orientation. Financial success is viewed as a personal triumph, right? And spending is just an extension of the self. I mean, brands literally tell us you deserve a break today. But over in East Asia, long-term orientation dominates. You're a node in a much larger family network. You prioritize future rewards, savings, and thrift because your personal financial security is your family's financial security.
Section 2. The trap of spendception. So how exactly does this short-term culture extract so much capital so incredibly fast? Well, the system is brilliantly designed to separate the buyer from the psychological weight of their own money.
According to research from the scholarly review journal, American consumers readily, even eagerly, sacrifice capital to escape effort. They'll pay massive premiums for food delivery and convenience apps, literally spending money to save time. Meanwhile, Taiwanese consumers do the exact opposite. They will happily spend time to save money.
Just look at this progression. Physical cash has a high pain of paying. You physically feel the loss when you hand it over. Credit cards kind of delay that pain, but mobile QR codes, digital wallets, that is total spendception. The friction is zero. The indulgence is absolute. Transactions just become this mindless, biometric tap.
Section 3. Asia's long-term prudence. Let's step away from the chaos for a second and look east. The pace slows down here. The horizon stretches out across generations. In this context, financial discipline isn't just a virtue, it's a mechanism for survival.
Notice this concept right here, CP value, or cost performance. Across many Asian cultures, this is the ultimate metric. And to be clear, it doesn't mean just buying the cheapest thing on the shelf. It means finding the absolute smartest investment. It's an intense, culturally ingrained aversion to financial loss. You are always optimizing for long-term viability over a quick, cheap thrill.
But we have to be super clear about something. This massive saving culture isn't just a cultural preference. It is a structural necessity. Take a look at this data comparing mainland China to the OECD average. Government spending on things like healthcare and social security in China is literally less than half the average of Western developed nations. When the state doesn't provide a comprehensive safety net, the family has to become the safety net. Economists call this precautionary saving. They aren't saving up to buy a boat, they're saving so they can survive a medical emergency.
Section 4. The weight of family. And this brings us to the real emotional core of the divide. Wealth accumulation in the East is deeply tied to the heavy, inescapable weight of family obligation.
Think about what failure actually means. In the West, if you go bankrupt, it's a personal reset, right? You get a fresh start. But in the East, debt is a collective responsibility. If you fail, your parents fail. Your siblings carry the shame. It stains your bloodline. You don't just owe the bank. You owe your ancestors.
And that shame actually overwrites the legal framework. In Japan, the personal bankruptcy process, known as chikoshuko, is very rarely utilized. The stigma is just simply too severe. So instead of seeking legal protection and getting a fresh start the way an American entrepreneur would, individuals will completely exhaust their informal social networks to try and resolve debts privately, desperately trying to avoid that public financial shame.
Section 5. Gold and macroeconomic fragility. Now, ancient cultural conditioning can sometimes violently collide with modern macroeconomics. So, what happens when a tradition meant to preserve wealth actually threatens to collapse a nation's entire economy?
Watch this number climb. $71.9 billion. That is the value of physical gold that India imported in a single year. It accounts for nearly 10% of the nation's entire import bill. When global oil prices spike because of geopolitical conflict, India, which has to import 87% of its crude oil, must pay for it in US dollars. So every single ounce of gold purchased by a citizen drains those exact same, highly vital US dollars straight out of the central bank's reserves.
This phenomenon has actually been likened to dragon sickness. The gold sitting in family lockers all across India is culturally viewed as the ultimate security. But macroeconomically, it's a non-productive wealth sink. It doesn't generate electricity, it doesn't build factories. The situation became so structurally fragile that the Prime Minister literally had to go on national television and desperately appeal to citizens to stop buying gold. It was a stunning moment, a modern government trying to save its fiat currency by asking 1 billion people to manually suppress a 5,000-year-old cultural reflex.
Section 6. The price of culture. As we pull back to look at the big global picture, we have to ask what all of this means for the future.
This final data proves the massive disparity. American households have completely normalized debt, basically operating on this belief that their income will eventually rise to cover it. Taiwanese households categorically reject this. They optimize entirely for long-term wealth, deeply resisting the normalization of credit card debt at every turn.
What we are looking at are two fundamentally opposed blueprints for human security. The Western model embraces individual risk, high debt, and a rehabilitative legal system that actually forgives failure to help spur innovation. The Eastern model demands collective responsibility, relies incredibly heavily on tangible assets like real estate and gold, and uses intense social stigma to enforce financial prudence.
Trillions of dollars are about to change hands globally in the great wealth transfer. And as these two distinct economic cultures collide head-on in our digitized, hyper-connected world, something has to give. Will the volatile global economy finally force the West to adopt the discipline of precautionary savings? Or will the irresistible, frictionless trap of digital convenience finally cause Asia to surrender to the culture of immediate periodics? Take a look at your own phone's home screen. The answer might already be sitting right there.